I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're diving into a heartfelt collection of stories with Elfie Salisbury, author of Let Me Tell You a Story. This captivating book shares real-life experiences of faith, family, and personal growth, offering readers relatable insights into life's highs and lows. Join us as we explore how these inspiring stories can spark reflection and strengthen your spiritual journey. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Inks and Bindings for helping us put this author in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like this one by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing this amazing book. The links are below this interview. Elfie, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me, sir.
My pleasure. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration to write the book, Let Me Tell You a Story.
Well, I am a retired teacher of 37 years. So a lot of the stories that I have stem from my teaching career, as well as I'm the youngest of 17 children. So I have a lot of stories to tell. I always wanted to be an author. I always wanted to write. But being in education as it is, you never have time to do some of this stuff that you would like to do. So after I retired, I had the opportunity just to be able to share some of my faith and help others understand how good that God really is. There are stories that stem from when I was a child, going through regular things that people may encounter themselves. And I just wanted to let people know that, when you say that I've been in your shoes, I've been in your shoes in some sad situations. So I wanted to get across to people that God is always there with you no matter what.
Absolutely. I gotta ask you about growing up the youngest of 17 children. I never heard of that before. I grew up with a lot of Irish Catholic families, and they had 10, 12, 13, maybe one infamous family would have 14, but 17.
It's
Holy
amazing.
cow.
Yes.
Amazing.
We're
Was it
very
just
blessed.
your normal? Did other people in the community have also large families like this? And you got the honor of being the baby and all that, right?
Correct. Actually, my family is from Eastern Kentucky. So I have siblings that are probably, I think there's a 30-year stretch between my oldest sibling and myself. So if you look at it, it's probably like two generations. A lot of when I was growing up, I grew up with my nieces and nephews instead of my brothers and sisters, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm closer to the lower half of my family. And some of my older brothers and sisters I didn't really get to know until I was older and old enough to understand what was going on.
That's a lot of toys to put under the tree at Christmas time.
Amazing.
Amazing that your parents could support all those children. It's just absolutely amazing. Let's talk a little bit about your Pentecostal upbringing and how that influenced your perspective on life.
I was raised in a Pentecostal church that had a lot of um, a lot of different types of expectations, I guess, in the religion itself. And growing up, you're in a very close-knit community of your church. I grew up in a small town in Northeast Ohio, so everybody knew everybody. And when I talk about going through some of the things that I did as a child and growing up, it's it's all experiences that I can now talk about. Not all of them were pleasant, about the expectations and being able to be involved in the community and just other things. But in my personal life, it took me until I was in my 30s to understand that God is not about religion. God is about a personal relationship with each one of us. And I had to come through some hard spots in my life where I had to figure out condemnation and conviction, and some other things, that I grew up with, but I made it through. And I don't regret anything that I've experienced in my entire life. It's all been stories to help others.
Tell us, speaking of stories, tell us a little bit about your book, like an overview, what the folks at home will find within the covers of the book.
What I did was I took 100 different stories, different topics, and they're in short stories. There's like 2 pages for each one, like a chapter. Excuse me. And each one has a different theme. The stories, like I said, come from my personal background, they come from my teaching background. They're easy reads, so I made it simple for anybody who doesn't really like to read. These are just little stories that you could read one every day and be inspired, because every story ends with a recognition of God and how he got me through the things that I went through. There's also a connection there, or something to think about at the end. So it just sort of makes you think, that you're not alone in your journey.
Just an example of one of the stories, maybe your favorite or the most poignant, the most touching, one that stands out to you.
One of the ones that I get talked with about is they even know the pages, and I don't know, it's like 60, page 60 or 61, something like that. But there's a story of when I was a young child and I suffered a sexual abuse and did not even say anything about it until I was probably in my 20s. So when you talk about that and what it was like to grow up through your teen years, young adulthood, and not being able to deal with those emotions and those feelings, a lot of people can relate to that. Being born back in the 60s and 70s, of course, there wasn't a lot of attention that was brought to situations like that. But this book has caused people to contact me and to say, that I understand what you went through, and I never, had the opportunity to talk about it or anything like that. So that's probably one of the stories I think that has come back to me the most.
Well, it's a powerful story, and it's a story that too many people can actually relate to
Yeah.
about being abused as a child, keeping quiet about it because of guilt, shame, or some kind of repression or suppression,
Mhm.
often enforced upon them by their religion or by their family.
Correct.
So speaking out about these things is very, very helpful. As you mentioned, your book includes stories from the 1960s all the way up to present times. What changes in society have stood out to you most?
I think, well, like I said, growing up in a large family, we didn't live in a large house. We actually lived, by the time I was born, we moved to an urban community up here, little town, and we lived outside the town on probably about 5 acres of land. So in a household our size, we never had like a bedroom for everyone. We had, at one point, we had like 2 bedroom house, and we had to put 6 kids in one of the bedrooms. So it's just stuff like that that you had to deal with and that you had to get through um, in order to be, successful. But we are all successful. My entire family is blessed. My mom and dad didn't have a lot of money. My dad was a carpenter, construction worker. My mom was a stay-at-home mom until I was probably about 4 years old. So we never had a want or a need for anything. My dad grew gardens that were unbelievably blessed and huge, and we had a good upbringing, as opposed to now. I mean, we didn't have the technology. We had each other, so we were the kids that were out on the streets until dusk, and you stayed out all day long. You knew everybody in your community. And that's the biggest thing that has changed, I think, over the years.
Things are gained, things are lost. I grew up obviously not in one of 17 children, but we were much poorer than kids are today. I mean,
Yes.
if people lived like I lived growing up, I think
Mhm.
we'd be on the news. I mean, my
Yes.
folks ran a rooming house. There were different couples and families living in every room of the house, and upstairs was us and our 4 kids, and in just a couple of rooms. And we
Yes.
got by. It was our normal. like you said, there wasn't room in the house. You went outside and played until the street
Yes.
lights came on, and you know, and did wonderful things that kids wouldn't dream of doing today because they'd be deemed too dangerous. But
Yes.
like I said, when something's gained, something's lost. Before
Mhm.
we leave you today, what
Mhm.
advice would you give someone going through their own struggles of faith?
I think the best advice I can give you is that you need to understand that even through the hardships in life, God is growing you where He plants you, and God will bring you through it. If you truly believe in God, He has everything that you need. He wants a relationship with you. He wants to help you. So you are not in any struggle all on your own. We have all been there and we understand. But you have to get close to God. You have to understand and get back to the basics of actual relationships with people and with God.
It's like your relationship with God is really like your relationship with anyone else. You have to nurture it.
Yes.
You have to
Yes.
communicate, and you have to appreciate it and realize God's abundant love. Um,
Yes.
and He's there for you, no doubt. This is an amazing book, an inspiring book. It is filled with wonderful stories that will make you reflect on your own life and uh, and make you a little more introspective of your upbringing, of the world around you. It's called Let Me Tell You a Story. It is a captivating book that shares real life experiences of family, faith, and personal growth. Elfie,
Yes.
thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir, for having me.
I appreciate your time. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.